Fridays with, yeah.
Okay.
Hello again, everyone. It's First Fridays with Ambassador Terry and friends. And I'm very happy to have a very close friend and colleague this month, Antonio Nieto-Rodriguez, a world-renowned project manager and speaker, just a terrific fellow on the side. Welcome, Antonio. I'm so glad we could do this.
Thank you, Terry. It's an honor to be in your show and having the opportunity to share a bit about the world, what's going on. So thank you. Really a pleasure and looking forward for our talk.
Me too. Me too. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of things going on out there this first Friday of February. In the U.S., there's looming recession, people getting laid off by the tens of thousands in anticipation of the recession coming. And, I've even had a couple of talks with people who reached out to me. What do you think, Terry? And I tell them, look, I teach this in the consortium. I wrote about it in my book, Consortium Business Model for the 21st Century. What kind of revenue generating stream can you create that is either recession proof or works with the recession should it come, as opposed to just closing everything and writing it off for a year or two and hope you get your people back? What's there that could do that? And he responded, well, geez, I'm not really sure. We hadn't really thought about that. And I said, well, think about this. Get your people, especially the people that are affected by future layoffs, together and let them come up with some revenue streams that can help save their jobs and build your business during this lull in the economy. Look about the future, not about what's going on right now. And he said, hey, that's not a bad idea. And I said, I'm going to call you in a week and find out what you're doing. Okay, so next week's the week. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Next First Fridays, we might talk about that. What do you think, Antonio? What are you hearing in Madrid and Central Europe and stuff? You were just in Brussels, I understand.
Yeah. Well, Terry, I don't think we have that massive layoffs that we're seeing in the EU, especially the big tech companies. Of course, that's impact when they have their offices around Europe too. I just came from Dubai, the Middle East, and so it's very interesting to see how the mood of the different parts of the world and Europe is it's gone through shaking times, and but the kind of layoffs waves and has not impacted us that much. So I think that's a good news. And then when you look at Middle East, Dubai, things are booming there. It's just amazing the positive mindset, and yes, we can launching this crazy project. So I like to compare and see. And I've not been in the US. I was there in December, but I follow the news and yes, it's a bit sad what's going on. But totally agree, Terry, with you. These sad moments often become an opportunity to do something else. So I think it's tough being laid off. I've been laid off once, and it was not easy, but it was like a turning point in my career. I see it now as something that was really good for me. So I think we need to think about these bad moments as an opportunity to reinvent ourselves. And I love the idea that you just shared.
Yeah, thanks. And I was noticing the leader of the United Arabs Emirates there is adjusting the work week, and doing different stuff like that. That is all positive influence. Yeah, it's a Muslim nation, so they're not as attached to Christian Sundays as other places. But that's okay. They're not taking away from the Christian Sundays. They're simply making their work weeks more adjusted for what they're doing in their country and their businesses. I have been watching Dubai with high interest now for several years because they're coming through with some stuff, really good forward-thinking stuff. And yeah, they have a little bit of money to spend. That's true. However, the leadership really have leader capacity. They're looking at their country and where their country can go, not with can they make a few more $1 billion.
Yeah.
Because they're quite comfortable now. Now they're going to share that wealth and build their company into a world power. And I think they could be, India is a good example. They're building hard and heavy,
Yeah.
and I have a mentee there and a couple of colleagues in the federal government there, and they're saying they're not seeing a shift towards any type of inflation. They're like what you're seeing. They're building,
Exactly.
they're moving forward,
Yeah.
and so I think that's all quite interesting. Leadership of the United States. Think about that a little bit. This does not have to happen, and
we say here in Spain that little people talk about politics and small stuff. Big leaders talk about big ideas, and what you see is that in Europe, in the US, you don't talk about big ideas anymore. There's a few people who are just trying to Elon Musk and the typical, but the main talk of the day is not about that, and as opposite of for the UAE or Saudi, or everybody has its own challenges in religion and so on, but the mood and the talks is about a vision for 2030, and it's just very exciting and refreshing, and you wonder why some leaders don't look at other places in the world where you can find inspiration to change the mood, to change the talk, and not just talk about politics, don't talk about confrontation, with small talk, right? Who doesn't bring any value to anybody, doesn't make our lives better. So it's unfortunately, but I hope with your program here, Terry, you will change that.
Well, we're looking forward to that. In fact, we have a pop-in comment that you and I share a friendship with a friend and colleague, Freddie Quirk. Freddie, thanks for stopping in with us. Delighted to attend here and experience words of wisdom. That's so nice, Freddie. And it's good to see you. You're a great fellow in your own right, and I'm always excited to see what you're doing on a regular basis. So thanks for that wonderful comment. It doesn't take that much to shift a whole thing. I wish and am present with the fact that at some point our congressional arm of our government will settle down and start thinking about the people instead of how to leverage each other. But that's not new. A lot of people don't know this in American history. Up until, the first 40, I think it was 44 years or something like that, only white male landowners could vote for president, could vote at all, And you go back and think about that. That was a very small amount of the population in those days, but they controlled it for a very long time. It took a new president to shift that. And I'm excited to see this next presidential election, because the last one was kind of usual politics. But I think there's a lot of shift in the way people, as the voters, think about where our nation should be going next. So I'm watching it with very high interest this year. I know I'm an active participant, so I get to complain all I want. I have voted in every presidential election since I was 18 years old, and I'm 70 now. So I can say that there's a whole lot of presidents that I voted for. And my father instilled this in me. If you want to complain about the government, be part of the solution. Don't be part of the problem. He says, as soon as you're old enough to vote, vote. And he was very staunch about that. He always voted. And as a matter of fact, so did my mom. And now that's coming to the fore, and that's only part of what is going on out here in the world today. Um, I have been watching Germany since Madame Merkel retired off of the scene, because she was certainly a good voice for everybody. The fact that she was a scientist going into COVID, the cool things that they did in Germany, smart thinking, and so I'm looking to see if the new person in there can make some shifts. What do you see? What's your thoughts on all of this?
Well, I think I I don't like to talk too much about politics. I think they've become like they took over the center stage, and they become a bit like celebrities. So it's just the role that they should be playing is focusing on the people, focusing on creating more wealth and a better society, and more sustainable cities and countries, and more jobs. But somehow in the last 10 years or so, not only the US, in Europe too, the whole politics have changed, and it's become about the politicians. It's like we citizens, we serve them for their cause and their personal agendas. And I think that's very frustrating and disappointing. The quality is going down of these people. They're not highly educated, like you were talking about Germany, where so it just become like a mud, and it's just a very dirty type of politics which don't benefit anyone. So when you see other countries around the world, you can see the potential, because obviously there's huge potential in the US, there's huge potential in Europe. But if you have bad leaders, that all gets just lost and wasted. And I think it's just very unfortunate that we don't have a way for cleaning up the political spectrum, fire them all, and just start again, and finding new ways to govern countries, and use, why not, artificial intelligence. And so I just think that people leave out of politics, and then they're not honest. They're not. They do whatever they can to stick on their jobs, and so the values, the ethics are also blown away. And it's just frustrating, because not for them, but it's more for the people, because it's just amazing how well we're prepared, how international, how connected we are between North America, South America, Europe. There's so much potential, and people at leading positions, they don't care. They just see their own agendas, and it's so disappointing. I think there is, of course, like you said, you can participate in elections every 4 years, or 5 or 2, but unfortunately, I think that the whole system is flawed in some of these countries. So it's just very difficult to change. But we have the option of finding other ways through other mechanisms, the networks like the one you have, like the one I have, influencing, trying to focus on the positive side, trying to create new things, trying to create the future. I think in the end we're much more, and if we get united and we focus on the right things, we can overcome this challenge. I'm sure we'll overcome. But it's just the phase that we're going through in the last 10 years has been quite disappointing from that perspective. And hopefully things change. It just takes so much time.
Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are watching right now, thank you for doing so live. And in addition to that, those of you that are listening to this recording, you have a lot more power than you think, and it's called money. If you don't do business with people that do not serve you or serve your people, they're doing bad things, don't buy from them. You know, there's a theory that the global economy is so fragile that if no one bought petrol for 24 hours, the entire system would crash. It's that sensitive. Mm-hmm. You know, there are times like right now, I'm sure different countries are sending billions back and forth by the minute, as opposed to a day or a week even. And we have that power. We are not powerless, ladies and gentlemen. We have the power to make real changes, and that is with the vote and currency. And I love quoting this guy because he's an amazing man, and I really think highly of him. Sir Richard Branson. Take care of your employees; they'll take care of your customers. And we just wrote a book, a compilation book, my business partner and a couple of colleagues and I, about people first, the next business model, where leadership's focusing on the people they serve and coexist with and co-workers. I was having a conversation the other day, and I used this example, and the other people on the Zoom really resonated with it. It's very simple, and that is, just focus on one thing. You're one person. Start with yourself. It's not selfish. Start with yourself. Take care of yourself. Respect yourself, and then send that respect out to other people, one at a time, because one becomes two, two becomes four, four becomes eight. And all of a sudden, you have massive amounts of respect and love coming back at you, which makes you feel better, and you throw more out there. So, and it does. It works in my world and in my network, both in person and here on the internet. Any thoughts on that, Antonio?
I think we saw that also when the COVID started, and the power of networks and the connections that we have now. Access, if I give you access to my network and you give me access to your network, Terry, then we just multiply exponentially. Everybody that I know, you can reach out. Everybody that you know, I can reach out. And we do that in very few steps. We reach anyone we want, right? And this was talk. I think there was like 7 steps before you reach to the top of the world. I think now that's flattened in 2-3 steps. You can be talking to somebody. I was the other day having the dinner with the prime minister of a country not far from here. So so there is I think that is something that maybe we have not exploited as much. Maybe we don't know how to navigate this opportunity that we have a lot of potential to tap on, and there's people who really know how to do these things. But like you said, I would encourage people to look into this and connect, because this is how you will find probably your next job if you've been unfortunately laid off recently, for example.
Yeah, I would agree. I would. Here's Freddie with another quote here. Really good. Thanks for these, Freddie. Totally agree with you. One thing, one person at a time. The approach, IT leaders, communities in the UK taking advantage, etc. Thank you for that. Yes, very valid. And ladies and gentlemen, nobody starts out an extrovert, ready to network with anybody, walk up and shake hands with anybody, or get on one of these, get in front of a camera. We all start out sloppy. We all start out with a lot of fear, and you make a lot of mistakes. And me, some 700 interviews and programs over the last few years later, I'm pretty comfortable with it. But I have a lot of time on here too. And when I started out, you'll like this, Antonio. I was watching a couple of videos that my wife and I did when we began our business back in the middle of 2012. And we looked at each other and went, "Oh my God, we did that." But you build and you evolve and you move forward. That's just the way it is. Now, you were very renowned. You've been on the Thinkers 50 renowned list of people for a number of years that I know of, and you're a world-renowned project manager. Has since we got two worlds now: pre-COVID, COVID, well, three really, COVID and post-COVID. But during the COVID times, I know I worked on a project with you, and where is the global project model going? Is it evolving? Has it changed?
Well, I think we're going through a transition where I am talking often about the future of work. And I think what we're seeing is that there is, of course, a huge amount of automation and artificial intelligence and robots that are being put in place into organizations. And that obviously changes the way we look at businesses. And I'm looking at the discussion around the future of work, and I think the focus today is a bit superficial, is whether you work from home or you work from the office. And I think we've proven that we can work from anywhere in the world. The vaccine that has been found for the COVID took just 10 months, and people were working remotely from across the world to do a project in 10 months, in 10 years. So I think that discussion is a bit useless. And the real discussion is, how are we evolving the future of work? And my vision is that with automating a lot of the operations, I talk to some senior leaders, they say, I don't want anybody working in operations in my business. It should be all done by machines. I want people to create value in different ways. And this is where I talk about this project economy, where I say, we are all working in projects. We're going to work in a project for 6 months, maybe in 2 projects. When the project is over, then we move into the next one. So it's a bit scary for many people, because we used to have like a career path, and you'll know where you will be in 5 years and 10 years. And now suddenly you only know where you're going to be in 6 months. But and I think that it's a bit scary, but knowing and being in this world for so many years, I'm not worried. I think there is enough. If everybody knows how to brand yourself, what are your strengths, what can you contribute? It's all around working in projects, working in teams to deliver change, to deliver impact. And I think that's very exciting. I love it, Terry. I see myself like a world of freelancers and you can just share your knowledge and experience, join that team. I think in companies, I call it the gig economy within organization. Imagine you work for Microsoft or a big company that Procter and Gamble, and you don't have a fixed role. So you will have the options to choose where you want to work. You choose that, you work for 6 months, then you choose where to work next. So I think it gives a lot of freedom. You can also say, I want to work this time. You can work for partners of these companies, not just for Microsoft, or you can say, I want to work today with this partner for the next 9 months in that project. So loosening up, removing hierarchies, making us free to choose where we want to work. Of course, there's always a deadline for a project. It has to be finished. So that means we need to be used to moving on to the next one. And we've seen that with the gig economy in the Ubers and that happened first, but I think we'll see that also in more skilled type of work, office management, and I'm just very excited. I think this is just expanding the opportunities. You will be working 1 day a week for Australia, the second day a week you can work for Europe, the third for the US, 4 you can do non-for-profit, and 5 take it off and play golf or whatever you want. So I think we're not there yet, but I talk to some companies, very big ones, international, where they're thinking seriously about this way of looking at it, which is super exciting, of course. What do you think, Terry?
Yeah, I talk, right. In my consortium model, I talk a lot about specialists as opposed to generalists. And specialists can be, you call an unemployed employee in, I don't know, in operations. You could contact that person, bring them back in for a contract to do something specific, and then hold them in your mind for the next contract. I had a couple of my employees want to know, how can I expand this? And I said, offer yourself as a contractor. Then they don't have to pick up an employee because they don't want to do the extra, add you into the insurance program. They don't want to do all the rest of that stuff. Yes, you've got to come up with that yourself. But smartly using your money and things like that, you're working all the time. That's the important part, is getting out there and work. One of my mentees, he was, woe is me, because, he was unemployed. He'd been with a major banking corporation for a number of years. And I said, when was the last time you talked to your old boss? He there? Well, yeah, he is still there. So why don't you go buy him lunch and give him an idea about, you could come back in to be doing your data stuff as a contractor and not affect, what he's got as full-time employees, because corporations have a lot of room for contractors. And he took his old boss to lunch, and they hammered out a 10-month contract. And that 10-month turned into a 2-year contract after that. And, and he's making more money than he was before. And they're gladly paying him that amount, because it's not interrelated to all the other expense that an employee can entail. So it's just looking at the world in a different way, both as somebody out there on the street looking to expand their work from home or remote work. And most of my people that work for my company are in 13 countries. None of them are nearby. We do everything online. Okay. Yeah. We help our clients online. Everything is online. And so, and everybody's happy with that, because they have their home life. They can take care of their kids. They don't have to worry about that stress, commutes, all that kind of stuff. And we as the leadership don't have to stress a bad month and where you're going to come up with the lease money and all the other stuff that's associated with. Yeah, I'm sorry, commercial lease people. There is a place for you, but it's not in my world. And people get to just think, I like saying this, and it's really true. Back in the late 60s, early 70s, the concept of thinking in the box and out of the box came to be. And people started using those limiting beliefs as the standard for moving forward, to be strategic or marketing, et cetera. Throw away the box. There is no inside. There is no outside. There is no sky's the limit. That's all limiting language. Throw away the limiting language. And what you come up with are valid, achievable visions and the strategies that go with it that are not timeline. You're not strapped to timelines, because COVID can come along. You make some adjustments and you keep moving. So that's something to think about too, ladies and gentlemen. Any thoughts on that, Antonio?
Yeah, no, it's in line with what we were talking. I think we have been formatted in a way, and once you reformat yourself, you remove your frames and you look at challenging situations as opportunities to learn about you, to become better. It just makes your life easier. It just you look at things more positively. You are more confident. You are more happy with yourself. So it's just I did a talk on TED Talk a few years ago, and I was talking about the brain. The brain tends to be masochist. We love bad news. We are bad with ourselves. That's by nature. And if you manage to turn that around and try to focus your thoughts and your mind into the positive side, and it just changes. Even if you're doing maybe the same type of work and the same time of life, it just flips completely the way you look at yourself. And it's just because we have this brain, we have these frames that we have grown. And I think we should be taught. Unfortunately, when you go to school or high school, nobody teaches you. They teach you things that you will forget in a day, right? So it's the things that will make us more successful, happier people, more that we don't learn. We learn by failure. We, like you were saying about your business theory, we look at why nobody tells us how we should manage our brain, how to be more positive, how to see it as bad situation, positive opportunities, how good we are all around the world, that there's really no big difference on the essence of human beings. And I always wonder what's wrong with these educational systems, right? So I think it could be part of that big change that we want to have. Theory is not just the politics, but also the educational system has a lot of flaws, and there's streams, there's different schools that have been very creative in the way they educate kids and empower their potentials. But the mainstream still, we almost set people for failure with the current educational systems, and then up to you to find your own way, and that's very disappointing. There's just a very marginal elite of maybe less than 1% who have already a competitive advantage. They can excel, but the rest were just starting always with minus points.
Yeah, yeah. And this is a good point to wrap this up for today. You have any final thoughts about what we talked? We really put some stuff out there today, my friend.
Yeah, I just didn't realize it's already half an hour. We've been talking, Terry, talking about the change in the world. I think these are tough times. I don't think this is time to relax and enjoy, and it won't be easy, I think, for the next year or two, but it's all, like we said, up to us. It's in your hands to take action, to look at things more positive, to connect, like you were saying, to connect to right people who inspire you. Reach out to people who can give you some advice, and I think the only thing that we cannot do is just, like you said, not do anything. Don't let yourself go. Try to. Yeah, it's tough, but then you will be very proud in a few years of what you have achieved. So I think that's the final thought I just want to share with the audience, and I look forward keeping in touch with all of you.
Yes, my friend, that was profound, and I would echo that. Day to day is day. The past is gone. Learn from it. The future's not here. Think about it, but be present. Presence is a point where manifestation becomes action. Manifestation come to light. Exactly. As soon as you're in that middle point, things that you're thinking about and struggling with start to come to play. And I thank you again to Antonio. Just always great to talk to you. And this was every bit, if not more than what I was hoping it would be, which is fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for stopping with us. And there's Freddie saying goodbye. Thank you, Freddie. And we'll see you next month with First Fridays with Terry and friends. Bye for now.